The time is now 7 o'clock.
A year ago, on this day, on October 7th, well, you remember this day, right? The Palestinian militant group Hamas launched a massive attack on Israel, killing over 1,200 people and taking hundreds hostage. Israel retaliated, starting this year-long war in Gaza that has reaped over 41,500 lives, most of them civilians. The situation has spread to involve Hezbollah of Lebanon and now Iran. Conflict in the Middle East has entered a new front with no end in sight. But this has also put the region's people in a grave humanitarian crisis, and they are in dire need of a ceasefire. I'm Catherine. This is Morning Wave in Busan on Monday, October 7th on befm, 부산영어방송. Good morning, Wavers. I hope you had a wonderful weekend and are ready to kickstart our morning together. You know, I wish we were marking something wonderful, something beautiful, but a year ago today, the world was shocked by this sudden Hamas invasion on Israel. It has now spread to a full-blown war involving multiple players in the Middle East. As for the situation in Gaza, well, devastation almost seems like an understatement. The local health ministry puts the death toll at over 41,000 as daily airstrike and ground invasions bombard Gaza. Israel claims that it only targets Hamas and accuses Hamas of using civilian infrastructure like schools and hospitals as shields. For the 2 million people of Gaza, they face multiple threats to their lives, such as continued evacuation orders, starvation, and other humanitarian crises. And even those who have been dispatched to offer humanitarian assistance have been killed in droves, making Gaza the deadliest place in the world for aid workers. And the lives of everyone in Gaza are at risk, and as the war continues into year number 2, the risk only continues to grow. So that is our overall main theme for today. But for now, we're going to switch gears, something a little lighter because we don't want it to be heavy throughout the next 2 hours. For our text topic, are you ready? I hope you are. So here we go. Have you seen this show on Netting? It's called Culinary Class Wars. It's a cooking show. It's a competition. Quite popular these days. With that as a backdrop, I want to know about your metric for choosing a good restaurant. So do you only seek out like the Michelin-rated restaurants? Or do you go to restaurants according to recommendations, whether it be from friends or social media? Or also this, are you willing to eat at a restaurant if it's good, if the food is really good, even if the place is a little shady, hygienic-wise? Like, you know it's not very hygienic, but the food is oh so delicious. Are you okay with that? 자, 요즘 스트리밍 프로그램, we'll call it Black White 요리사가 인기 있잖아요. 보시는지 저는 너무 재미있게 보고 있는데요. 여러분은 맛집을 정할 때 찾는 기준이 무엇인지, 자, 미슐랭 별 받는 식당 무조건 간다. 아니면 후기 추천 받아서 간다. 예를 들어서 친구, 인스타, 블로그 후기 그런 거 봐서 그게 굉장히 중요한 건지, 혹은 허름하고 지저분해도 너무 맛있다 하면 간다. 기준이 뭔지요? That's what we're talking about. You can send in your responses to BFM's live stream live chat on YouTube. So search for BEFM 부산영어방송 on YouTube, and then you can, subscribe, log in, and chat away with our other waivers. Also on your phone, pound 9050. That's going to cost you 100 won. You can also reach me for free on our KakaoTalk channel. Same thing. Search for BEFM or 부산영어방송. You can listen to us in so many different ways these days on the radio, 90.5 or 103.3 FM. And like I said, on our YouTube channel, we're streaming live right now as we speak. You can watch at your leisure later on as well. You can also use the Patbang app to listen to us. And looking at the lineup for today, we have Showbiz Buzz with Michael, Business Perspectives with Bobby. For our special interview today, we're going to talk about something that is controversial. In Korean, it's called 심신미약. In English, the legal term is diminished capacity. We've heard about multiple cases, but, the recent stabbings and incidents, not just in Korea. Like, remember, I covered that story of a 13-year-old stabbing a younger sister in the States, but just cases about crime and punishment where sometimes the defense raises this issue of 심신미약. Like there was a diminished capacity angle. That's a defense strategy where they might raise, for example, I was drunk at the moment, or some other defense strategy. So especially with the influence of alcohol when it comes to things like drunk driving, and even when it comes to murder. We're going to take a deep dive into this defense. That's coming up in hour number 2, so stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, I'll be back with today's headlines. It is now 7:06, and these are today's headlines. Government to grant conditional leave for medical students. The Education Ministry yesterday said that it will temporarily allow medical students to take a leave of absence on condition that they return to school next year. Yoon begins a Southeast Asia trip in the Philippines. President Yoon and First Lady Kim arrived in the Philippines on Sunday local time for a state visit aimed at boosting economic and security ties with the Southeast Asian nation. National Assembly to begin first inspection of government offices. Intense partisan confrontations are expected over snowballing controversies surrounding the First Lady and the legal risks of the opposition Democratic Party chairman Lee Jae-myung. Kim Jong-un and Xi Jinping exchanged congratulations on anniversary of diplomatic ties. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and Chinese President Xi Jinping have exchanged congratulatory messages over the 75th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between the two nations. Iran cancels flights as Israel pounds Lebanon. Israel's Yoav Gallant says everything on the table for retaliation against Iran as flights across Iran have been canceled until Monday morning local time. And these are today's headlines. Let's say hi to Haley first. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, so before we jump into our updates, what are your guidelines for choosing which restaurant to go to? Because I know you and your family love going to
food.
like the hot places.
We do, but we also cannot afford to go to the Michelin star restaurants, or not frequently. I like for cafes, I will base my recommendations off of social media. Because, in Dangram it has great cafe recommendations, and but then for restaurants, for food, I like I have a weird hobby. If we're like going to, for example, like Gyeongju or like 통영 or whatever, I use the portal site map, the green portal site map.
Sure.
And I will just go to the map area and then search for 음식점. And I'll just scroll through the list and like look for reviews, like the star ratings, and look at the photos and the menus, and just put a star, like bookmark places that I want to visit. Yeah, so I just kind of randomly pick places on maps. And then also I have a handful of friends whose recommendations I fully trust because they are the pickiest eaters.
I see.
So picky.
But when you do the random scrolling through and bookmarking, how does that usually turn out? Like
pretty well, because I have my own metrics. Like I will look at the photos. I'll look at the blog reviews, but I'll also look at the review photos and kind of make my own calls. And they've been okay.
So far?
Yeah.
Okay. Very interesting. Well, first, for our updates, we may have a subway worker strike happening in the near future.
Unfortunately, yes. Hopefully, it won't come to that. But the Union of Busan Metro, Busan Subway Corporation's workers have announced that if their negotiations with the company, they fall through, if they do not come to a satisfactory conclusion, they will launch a strike on October 11th.
Yes.
So the labor and the management sides have sat down for over a dozen rounds of negotiations since June, but they haven't been able to come to an agreement. So the union is calling for a 4.8% raise in wages and hiring of about 500 workers as safety personnel. However, Busan Metro, they've proposed a 1.5% hike in wages and said it cannot afford to hire additional personnel. So last month, the union voted 87.6% in favor of a strike. And the thing is, if the negotiations, the final round is scheduled for the 10th. If they fall through, then the union will launch a strike with the first train or the first subway on the following day, the 11th.
Okay.
And the union will hold a press conference in front of City Hall later this morning and explain their position.
I see. So we're hoping that it doesn't come to that, though, of course. And as this is going on, the Hadan to Noksan subway line has been approved by the Land Ministry.
Right. So that's been a long time coming, but the Land Ministry has approved the basic plans for this Hadan to Doksan subway line that happened on Friday. So this is a key aspect of Western Busan's infrastructure, or will be.
Yes.
So it'll expand the current Sasang to Hadan line that's under construction, and it'll connect Ulsukdo, Myeongji, and the industrial complex in Doksan, spanning about 13 kilometers.
Sure.
So Busan City expects the subway line to, number one, ease the persistent traffic problems in Western Busan, and they plan to finish up the administrative processes by the end of the year, with the goal of breaking ground in 2026.
Very good. So that's definitely good news. Now we're going to go to more transportation issues. Kimhae International Airport for our next story. Upon its persistent overcrowding issue, it expanded the international terminal earlier this year. We reported on that. But because of staff shortages, it has been able to live up to its potential.
Right. So the infrastructure, the windows are there.
Yes.
They're just not manned.
Oh.
Yeah. So
big problem.
Then what's kind of the point?
Yes.
So the expanded arrival port of the international terminal, it only operates 3 hours per day.
Yes.
Right. So it's that, So the airport has put in about 80 billion won to expand that terminal last April. But at the same time, it hasn't been able to secure the budget to pay the staff to run the said expanded airport.
Oh.
So according to People Power Party lawmaker Kim Hee-jung, who also sits on the Parliamentary Land Infrastructure and Transportation Committee, that terminal is about short 100 staff members who are in charge of customs, immigrations, and quarantine. So because of that, the terminal's new arrival ports are currently only running between the busiest hours of 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. And after 9 a.m., it just sits empty.
Okay.
The expanded departure terminal, it does operate 24/7 because departure, you just basically, these days you don't even stamp the passport. You just kind of scan the passport and let people through.
Yes.
Arrival does take significantly more manpower because you do have to go through quarantine and whatnot.
I see.
The airport this isn't for lack of trying. They did ask the Justice Ministry for additional staff, but they were turned down.
Well, ultimately, this affects the capacity of our only airport, at least for now.
Right. So Southeast Korea's only airport.
Yes.
So basically, Kimhae hasn't even been able to fill its regular quota, let alone this expanded quota for its arrival staff. That's because the government's most recent funding push went to fill the quota for Incheon International Airport. Of course, it being the biggest airport in the country, we do understand the need, but at the same time, there's always that persistent need for balanced regional development.
Yes.
So that leads to Kimhae being disadvantaged for getting new flights into our system. And by the way, this is in spite of the projection that this winter season's passenger figures will recover to the pre-COVID levels.
Oh no. So it's going to be
Longer
busy
waits. Right.
again. All right. We all know that BIF, the Busan International Film Festival, is well underway and many of the events have been quite successful. However, there have been some complaints about the ticket prices.
Right. So number one, as we have discussed with the programmer on our expert interview, and I definitely tried to get tickets this weekend. By the way, this was poor planning on my part. Trying to get weekend tickets on a weekend was
difficult, impossible.
Stupid on my part. I'm like, well, of course not. Of course you wouldn't be able to get tickets. But even if you get the tickets, you might be getting a sticker shock. Depending on, especially if you started your BIF journey earlier on, like years back.
Okay.
So film festivals are supposed to be this opportunity to, number one, be able to watch a lot of movies you wouldn't normally see in multiplexes.
Sure.
But also at relatively cheaper prices. However, of course, with everything going up, BIF ticket prices are now 10,000 won. Right.
How much were they before?
They were, I mean, depending on when you started,
when?
it was like 9,000 won last year.
Okay.
It was 8,000 won the year before. I mean, it
see.
has been going up at kind of a persistent rate.
Okay.
But if once it becomes 10,000 won, it's like that psychological threshold. You're like,
course.
oh, it's 10,000 won now, as
Four
opposed to
digit
like
to 5 digits.
Exactly.
Yes.
That digit change is really, it's major.
Yes.
And at the same time, decreased government funding for film festivals in general, and of course BIF, that has actually led to a lower number of films being screened. Thus, the kind of the competition for tickets.
Yes.
So those who remember past prices of just several thousand won, you definitely feel it more. And they say that these higher prices, they do raise a hurdle for experiencing a wider variety of movies. And I know cinephiles, they like try to watch 4 or 5 movies per day.
Sure.
But that's like 4만 원, 5만 원. That's a huge...
That's an outing.
Yeah, that's an outing. So BIF explained that, by the way, the ticket price increase was inevitable due to logistics and personnel costs. And as for their part, it has nothing to do with the decrease in government support. But in any case, tickets are now 10,000 won.
Okay, well, thanks for letting us know. Thank you, Haley. Now back to you, the waivers. Today we're talking about food. Where are all the foodies? We're talking about how you choose your restaurants, your eateries. Do you only seek out the fancy, schmancy, fine dining, Michelin-rated restaurants? Or do you go to restaurants based on recommendations, whether it be from friends or maybe social media or maybe those, vlogs or blogs? Or are you willing to go to a restaurant that maybe not so clean, but for sure, taste-wise, so delicious. Like, for example, like you've ordered from them like through delivery and then you happen to pass by and you notice, oh, that's where I've been delivering from. I've had a case like that. That's why I say it like that. Well, let me know how you choose your restaurants. And here's your traffic and weather. It is now 7:18. Here's your traffic report. There is congestion detected on the Dongso overpass from Hwangnyeom Ramp to the old Kaegum Tollgate. Also looking slow right now on Byeongno from Wondong Ramp to Suyang Tunnel. Also backed up on Gwanmundaero from Bangum Tunnel to Baekyang Tunnel. As for the weather, it is currently 17 degrees Celsius and it seems to be raining in Busan right now. The rain will continue through most of the day and the daytime high, it's only going to get up to 20. So definitely Yes, cooler than it's been. Rain is forecast for much of the country with heavy fog in parts of Gangwon. So please be aware of this. This was your traffic and weather report.
Are you an early bird? Are you up to date on the news? Are you a trendsetter? For all of the biggest issues from Busan to the world and useful information you need, right here on Morning Wave in Busan.
Yes, it's time for News Digest. So we're going to get serious. Haley's still in the studio with us as we tackle our first story. The U.S. presidential election, which is coming up real soon, it really does affect South Korea in so many ways. And one such aspect is, of course, the defense cost sharing. As former President Donald Trump has, of course, consistently pushed for higher costs to South Korea and all the allies of the U.S.
Right. So that's why South Korea and the U.S. have both picked up speed on their negotiations for the defense cost sharing deal, which they finally reached an agreement on Friday. So the two sides, the details of the agreement, they decided to raise the share of costs for hosting American troops on South Korean soil by 8.3% compared to the same time last year, starting in 2026. So these are under the Special Measures Agreement, which basically stipulates this, the cost-sharing deal. So under the 5-year agreement, and so that'll last until 2030, South Korea will pay 1.52 trillion won in 2026, and that's up from 1.4 trillion won in 2025 for the upkeep of 28,500 U.S. Forces Korea personnel. So that includes troops as well as administrative personnel. So by the way, as for the process itself, it took 8 rounds of negotiations, reaching a last-minute agreement just a month before the U.S. elections.
Right.
So Seoul said that both sides reached a mutually acceptable and reasonable outcome. And in a separate statement, the U.S. State Department welcomed the deal and called it a significant accomplishment for both sides, one that strengthens their alliance and shared defense.
Indeed. And, with Donald Trump, a possible second term in the White House, I'm sure that played a role in kind of the expedited negotiations.
Right, because the current SMA, the Special Measures Agreement, it's due to run out in 2 years.
Yes.
And by the way, when I said last minute, I meant last minute before the elections.
Yes.
Definitely not last minute for the actual agreement.
Of course.
So there were 2 years. There was plenty of time.
Yes.
So pundits said that this expedited negotiations process has a lot to do with Trump running for office, especially when negotiations started last April. The ticket was vastly different. It was Biden versus Trump, and Biden was definitely trailing behind in polls depending on when you were looking at the polls.
Sure.
So tensions over the SMA, it strained the South Korea-U.S. alliance during Trump's presidency because at the time Trump had repeatedly accused South Korea and other rich allies of free riding on the U.S. And he demanded for a 5-fold increase in South Korea's contributions to the burden, and that would have totaled $5 billion.
Yes.
Actually, the two sides under the Trump administration at one point failed to reach a full deal, and they had to settle for a 1-year agreement as opposed to a 5-year one back in 2019. And at one point the following year, if you remember, Korean workers working for U.S. bases, they actually had to go on unpaid leave because of a gap in this agreement that basically cut their pay.
Indeed. And so we're going to leave that there for now. And as I mentioned in, of course, news just a little while ago, President Yoon Suk-yeol, he is in Southeast Asia for a diplomatic trip. But there has been criticism as to how much of the government, the budget goes into these trips.
Right. Not just the trips themselves, because one can argue that these diplomatic trips, the state visits, are a necessary part of foreign policy.
Sure.
Of course, a president role is to boost these diplomatic ties, but parts that are full out wasted. And what I'm talking about specifically, cancellation fees, which you would think, well, on a state visit, are there cancellation fees? Yes, there are. So I'm citing a JTBC exclusive report, which said back in February, President Yoon Suk-yeol was supposed to go on a diplomatic trip to Germany and then to Denmark on February 13th was the departure date. But 5 days before he was due to leave, the presidential office announced that they are delaying the trip. They never really provided an official reason, but there was speculation, and the opposition party had accused that it had to do, at least something to do with First Lady Kim Gun-hee's luxury bag scandal breaking back in February, and even local German outlets reporting on the delay of the presidential visit, and also the Dior bag scandal in the same story.
Okay.
Here's the thing, though. Because, a presidential delegation is huge, not only involving officials from the government, but also a business delegation, there were already officials in Germany at the time laying down the groundwork, security, getting stations ready. So they had to come back. So that was additional cost. Not only that, the members of the business delegation, they had to change or cancel their tickets.
Sure.
And of course, that comes with cancellation fees.
Yes.
Specifically, at least 580 million won. So that's 5억 8천만 원, which the government paid for, aka out of taxpayer funds. And this is, by the way, based on the Culture Ministry's report to the parliament, which showed that figure, 580 million won, that was just a cancellation for the venue rentals where the press conferences were supposed to take place and rental cars. So we don't even know how much the hotel and flight cancellation or the change fees were.
Yes.
By the way, the government last year, they depleted the budget set aside for overseas trips specifically and used an additional 52 billion won from its reserve funds. And the name might be misleading. It's not just money we have laying around. It's for emergencies.
Indeed. All right. Next up, let's talk about this. We've previously talked about, the story of two Filipina domestic workers who left the work program without notice, right? And they've been located in Busan.
Right, so it seems that they kind of went as far away from Seoul as
possible.
Exactly, right. So the two Filipino domestic workers they were basically caught in Busan as they were wanted. Yes. They had entered South Korea back in August through Seoul City's foreign domestic workers pilot program.
Yes.
But during the Chuseok holiday, they suddenly left the dormitory, never showed up for work, and even one of them had left her phone there and had been missing since then. But unfortunately, their status did turn into undocumented immigrants because they were in the country for certain working conditions.
Right.
So the city's immigration authorities, in conjunction with the local police, located and caught the two workers at an accommodations facility in Yeonje district. Also, it turns out that they had gotten a job in Busan, which is illegal for them to do so because they're only signed on to do the domestic work program. So they will go under investigation, questioning, and then later be deported.
So once again, that visa was very specific, right? The so-called nanny visa, right? But this also raises issues around the working conditions of these workers. And so the authorities have decided to, I guess, make some tweaks to the rules.
Right. That was the point of the pilot program was to kind of test things out and gain feedback. Of course, this two workers going MIA was never anticipated. So Seoul City said that from now on, they will no longer enforce the curfew, which was at 10 p.m., or specifically do nighttime attendance checks in the dorms. So the pilot program's rules had the workers coming back to the dorms at 10 p.m., at which point the authorities took roll. However, this did face some objections from the workers, especially if they get off at 8 p.m., for example, and if they had errands or they wanted to do something, they didn't have time to do so. And they're also discussing giving wages every 2 weeks as opposed to every month to kind of get the funds flowing more frequently.
Indeed. So hopefully, the conditions will be better and we won't have issues like this.
Right.
Let's move on to some international news. The European Union has slapped on a big tariff on Chinese electric vehicles.
Right. So the European Union, they're expected to impose a tariff of up to 45.3%. So massive tariff on Chinese EVs as early as the end of October. So the EU Commission announced that they have the necessary backing from its member nations on these tariffs, which is basically a tax on imported products. So this is because an EU investigation last year revealed that Chinese EVs received basically, in their opinion, too much money from aid, of course, differing from different countries, but they were basically entering the market at a lowered price compared to the EU manufactured brands.
Sure.
So the tariff will differ by how cooperative the Chinese companies were in that investigation. So, for example, 20.7% if they did cooperate fully, 35% if they didn't.
But apparently not all of the EU states were unified behind this initiative.
Right. So EU members were divided on the tariff. So, for example, Germany, their car manufacturing industry is heavily dependent on exports to China. So they don't want any retaliatory tariffs from China.
I see.
So Germany was against these tariffs. However, and also many EU members actually didn't even vote. They abstained in the vote.
Okay.
So German car makers had been vocal in their opposition, Volkswagen saying that the tariffs are the wrong approach. But then as for the pro-tariff sides, we're looking at France, Italy, Netherlands, and Poland. They reportedly back the taxes. Right. So that's where we are. So the dispute has raised fears among the industry, even outside the car sector, like manufacturing parts, as they can now face retaliatory tariffs from China. So we've previously had these U.S.-China trade wars, and I'm wondering if we will see EU-China trade conflicts.
Well, we will keep an eye on the situation. Thank you for the news. We'll check in with you in hour number 2. Thank you, Haley.
See you in a bit.
All right, back to you, the listeners, the wavers out there. We are talking about food, restaurants, 맛집. So what do you do when you are looking for a good restaurant, a 맛집? What do you do? Do you seek out the fancy schmancy, like fine dining, Michelin-rated restaurants? Or do you get recommendations? Do you ask your friends or family, or do you go on the internet, social media, and get recommendations? Or are you willing to eat at a place that's not really hygienic, 별로 안 깨끗해요. 근데 너무 맛있어요. Like really, really good. 자, 요즘 스트리밍 프로그램 보고 있나요? We'll just call it black, white 요리사. You know what that is, right? 굉장히 인기 있잖아요. 저도 요즘에 너무 푹 빠져 있습니다. 여러분 맛집 정하실 때 찾는 기준이 뭐예요? 그래서 is it the whole like 그 미슐린 그 별이 있는지 없는지, 아니면 is it regarding the recommendations from like Insta thing, or the your 친구s, your blogs? What do you do? Or I don't know. Do you go to the hole in the walls? Because apparently Umberto does. He says, in the States they have a grading, A, B, C. He's like, the hole in the walls with the B grading? It's going to be a banger, meaning not so clean, but really, really good, tasty. All right, so we're going to get to our first song. This is Die With A Smile, and this is by Lady Gaga, Bruno Mars. Enjoy.
I just woke up from a dream where you and I had to say goodbye, and I don't know what it all means, but since I survived I realized wherever you go, that's where I'll follow. Nobody's promised tomorrow, so I'ma love you every night. next to you. Next to you. Right next to you.
Welcome back. It's now 7:36 on this, at least in Centum City, rainy Monday morning. Yes, I know it might not be raining where you are. So our top story today, we're talking about the war in the Middle East, especially in Gaza, which has now unfortunately spread to Lebanon and even with direct involvement from Iran. But for today, on this anniversary, October 7th, we're going to look at the two main players, Palestine and Israel. Although the direct and immediate devastation of the war is mostly in Gaza, Israel has also experienced major changes in the past year. First, there are families of some 200 hostages still waiting for their loved ones to come home. And at this point, it doesn't really look good, right? Israel's government under Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu wields more power than ever as it directs war against not only Hamas, but now also against Hezbollah and Iran. At the same time, it faces internal threats from political opposition. Of course, there's also the pressure from the international community calling for a ceasefire as well. It has been a long, painful year for everyone involved. And once again, the region, there's this hope for a ceasefire from at least people on the outside. And hopefully there will be some sort of first step toward stability for the sake of the civilians. I don't know about the politics. I don't know about the strife between the different governments. But definitely for the civilians, we're hoping for some sort of peace, ceasefire, stability for the sake of the people. All right, now back to our text topic. We're talking about food and restaurants, how you choose your restaurants. And so getting to some of your responses, let's go to the Kakao Talk board because I don't want to ignore a certain segment of our listeners. Sally Kelly says, restaurants are like finding a good wine. You just got to try them until you find one that you like. I kind of like that though, because sometimes restaurants are kind of like, sometimes they're a miss, and sometimes, you find one that you really like. And I also think it's not kind of like a, everyone likes all the same kind of restaurants, right? It's very, subjective. 이선영 says this. 저는 위생은 기본이고요. 기본. 블로그도 보지만 영수증 리뷰 참고합니다. 행복한 한 주 보내세요. So she says, hygiene. That's like a basic thing for her. And she always looks at blogs and looks at the receipt reviews. So that's her take on that. And Minsu, whom I haven't heard from in a while, great to hear from you. He's been quite busy. So he says, I usually go around town when it comes to choosing a restaurant. He says it's quite funny that one of the main 돼지국밥 restaurants that I often go to, it happens to be a Michelin, guide starred restaurant. I think they just earned it recently. So he says price, hygiene, and food quality is on his checklist. So that's how it goes for, some of you. I'll read more in a little bit. But in the meantime, here is Kat's pick for today. For today's cat pick, I want to talk about this hero. A passenger had to take over the controls of a small plane after the pilot had a medical emergency. So here's a clip from ABC News.
Imagine being a passenger on a plane, the pilot passes out, and then you have to safely land it. Well, that's what happened to one woman, so take a look.
Are you with me?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so make sure you add a little bit of power.
This morning, a hero passenger safely landing this small plane after its pilot fell unconscious midair.
You gotta add power. We're going a little too slow. Make sure you add power.
The plane taking off from Henderson Executive Airport outside Las Vegas just before 11 a.m. Friday, according to data from Flight Radar 24, heading to Monterey, California. But 2 hours later, diverting to Bakersfield when the pilot suffered a medical emergency.
Your altitude is looking good, 5,900 feet. Try to stay level at 6. You're in a right-hand turn. Continue that right-hand turn.
A passenger taking the controls. Air traffic controllers helping the woman land the plane.
We're going to set you up so that as you level off from your turn, you're going to be straight in for Bakersfield Airport. Is that all right?
Okay.
The pilot rushed to the hospital. That hero passenger uninjured, and her unexpected landing, leaving the plane without any noticeable damage. Just 2 days earlier, another scare just south of that same airport. This small plane crashing near a highway. Firefighters nearby hearing it go down and responding quickly. That pilot, the only one on board, suffering major injuries.
And you could hear how calm and encouraging that air traffic controller was while trying to instruct that passenger. We reached out to the Kern County Fire Department and Sheriff's Office overnight about this incident. Have not yet heard back.
Her voice is so calm, and I was thinking, I listened to this clip like 3 times, and I was just like, how I would be like, what do I do? What do I do? Because landing a plane, no matter, and I looked at the plane, it's not like a small little Cessna. I mean, that would be like nerve-wracking too. I mean, it is a smaller plane, but still. And kudos to her for landing it. It looks like there was no damage to the plane, but just the fact that she landed the plane, even with the guidance of air traffic control, amazing, amazing story. And that's why I wanted to share it with you on this Monday morning. This was Kat's Pick for today.
Stay tuned. You're listening to Morning Wave in Busan.
It is now time for Showbiz Buzz. Guess who I found live in our studio? Michael's back. Yay!
Good morning.
You look so dressed up and serious.
Yeah, I look.
And we match.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I gotta look formal.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I'm assuming you have something after.
Yeah, I mean, I have to go to this, business stuff, And men's gotta work sometime.
Oh, sometimes, yeah. This is the business side of you today, not the
business
artist
side that you don't get to see a lot, because usually I'm the 잠자리채 guy, as we all remember back in the summer. Now it's going away finally, as we can, see in the rain.
Yes.
Things are cooling down, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, people are welcoming you. Oh, Michael's back. 지금 난리 났어요.
Hello, thank you. 감사합니다.
네.
잘 다녀왔습니다. Because I was away last
Men
week.
in Black. Hello, Woman in Black. People in Black, yes. But
People in
anyhow.
black.
No, I forgive you, kind of. But yes. So let's dive in to our topic.
Oh yeah, straight
First
in.
topic.
Today.
What are we talking about?
Yeah, we got some big news today. Im Yoon-chan.
Oh, I saw the story Friday.
It's a big news all over the world, I
Yes,
think. Yeah.
yes.
So Korean pianist Im Yoon-chan won the prestigious Gramophone Classical Music Award in the piano category. That's,
And then that is so competitive.
It
Is it
is.
not?
It's a worldwide competition when it comes to
Yes.
Gramophone Classical Music Award. Nobody, not anyone gets it for sure. It's like
course.
it's like think of it as like the America's Grammy Awards, or it's also as called the Oscars for classical music.
Indeed.
So it's a big thing. And Im Yoon-chan, he's only 20 years old.
So young.
I'm 35.
You're
And-
young too.
Thank you.
You're young and fabulous, but he's younger and
He's much younger, and he's already winning awards from all around the world, including this one. And he also won the Young Artist of the Year award as well at the ceremony.
So he got 2 awards.
And he received this award for his album Chopin Etude.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the album that we all know. I think we've been following for the last couple of months.
Right.
He's the first Korean to win the award in the piano category, but other Korean artists have won awards in other categories in the past. And some examples include violinist Jung Kyung-hwa,
Oh yes.
who won the award twice
I remember. Yeah.
in 1990 and 1994, and cellist Jang Han-na in 2003.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's big. I mean, it's gonna,
And I'm sure you know, but I want our listeners, waivers, to know that he was going up against himself in this category.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because
Wow.
it was this album, and he had another album. It was the List album, the Transcendental album, and so it was, and the difference was by 1 vote, I hear. So he was going up against so he got number 1 and number 2, the top 2 spots.
Yeah. I mean, that's
amazing.
That's amazing. But
Right.
at the same time, a little bit jealous because I mean,
질투나세요?
질투가 조금 나네요. 저도 받고 싶어요. Gramophone Classical Music Award. Maybe someday, I don't know. But I have to, I have to, because this award goes to the best recording, basically. So you have to
Yes,
record
yes.
albums,
Right.
So maybe, I should start performing. I don't know, maybe.
Send in your recordings.
Maybe I should. Maybe I should start singing. I've been practicing
you
here
should, you
during this
should.
segment, right? Remember?
Yes.
Well,
Should we send in the recordings for you?
Oh yeah, I mean that would be amazing because we all already have the recordings for
Of
a lot of things.
course.
So, yeah. Anyways.
But anyways, that's how amazing he is. I mean, he was going up against himself.
Yeah, and
Yes.
he still has a long way to go. He's going to record more music in the future, I'm sure. So
When is it coming to Busan? This is one that I am willing
Yeah.
to lay down big bucks for.
yeah.
Well, not
I mean,
that big, but like
Im
big
Yoon-chan,
enough.
I mean,
Yes.
someday I'm sure he's gonna come to Busan.
I hope so.
기다릴게요, 이민준 선생님.
With
네.
bated breath, we're
Yeah.
waiting.
Yes, we are waiting.
Yes. Let's go on to our next story.
Yeah, Netflix's culinary class wars.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
this
know
is
it.
one as
I know it as 흑백 요리
요리사 아니에요?
요리사 맞죠?
네.
흑백 요리사. 뭐 갑자기 기억 안 나지?
Oh, I was like staring at you to
I
finish
remember
it.
it as culinary class wars. That's
Yes,
why.
흑백 요리사.
흑백
in
요리사. Yeah.
Korean.
It sparks. It sparked renewed interest in local restaurant
I don't
industry.
know. Are waivers not watching it? Like,
Oh
our
my
producer watched it. I watched it. Haley
웨이버님들-
watched it. Did you watch it?
I'm watching it.
It's so like.
Oh my goodness! If you haven't watched it, waivers out there, you have to watch it. I mean, I did not realize that there are so many good foods out there. So many kinds of good food.
Yes.
Ranging from Chinese, Japanese, Indian, Italian, whatnot.
And by the
Korean.
way, we're not the only ones watching it because it's been named.
Because we have to move. Yeah.
Okay.
The show was named the most watched non-English TV series on Netflix for 2 consecutive weeks.
Yes.
So that's for a long time, period of time. And it drew unprecedented crowds to restaurants across the country. So there are more than 100 establishments or restaurants, joining in this TV series, as chefs and cooks and whatnot. And this is resulting in more than 100 restaurants around the country being booked up. So
There's
the
like a
reservations
boom.
are full. Yes. Yes.
I did see like on social media lines
Yeah.
in front of the restaurants
Yeah.
associated
I
with
wouldn't be
these chefs.
surprised because
Yes.
they always take the zoom in shots for those cuisines that they make, and it looks amazing.
It does.
Yeah, I really want to go there, but I don't think there's a lot of people from Busan though. Most of them are in Seoul.
Yes.
But anyways, the restaurant industry has been battling inflation in a saturated market for some time now. So they've been
Okay.
struggling a lot, and this show comes as a new wind. It could be a breakthrough.
Yes.
But some others say that this could be a temporary effect and I'm also on this side as well because the show itself is amazing, it's exciting and all that, but people tend to forget after everything ends, right? So we'll have to see if there is a longer perspective, is there a solution?
Is it going to fizzle out? Is it just
Exactly.
Is it a trend?
Exactly. That's the point. But so far,
Yes.
Culling Class Wars is doing a great job for the local restaurant industry. Yeah.
So for now, at least, it's parlaying over into, the restaurant industry, which is important for the economy. So that's why we're talking about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Let's move on to our next item,
Yeah.
which is
YouTuber Ziyang.
Yes.
We remember her
Yes.
as a mukbang. How do you say that? Eating video?
I think they just call it mukbang
Mukbang?
these days. It's
Okay.
kind of known. It's parlayed over.
Yeah.
Like
So
extreme eating.
yeah, extreme eating. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just called mukbang,
Yeah,
right?
but Ziyang is famous for her mukbang videos, right?
Yes.
She's a YouTube star. She is making a comeback after a 3-month break. So this comes after, 3 months after revealing that she had been exploited and tortured by her ex-boyfriend. And she has promised to resume her well-known mukbang content.
Yes.
So Ziyang is, making new content and it's going to be uploaded soon. But she said that she will start by shooting outdoors outside of Korea. So so the new videos will be taking place outside of Korea
Sure.
for personal reasons. But Ziyang reported, but Ziyang said she is very excited to be back and she has missed the fans. So we're looking forward to her coming back. So we all remember Ziyang reported 4 YouTubers for blackmailing her using her past. They have been indicted on August and will speak at their first hearing on October 18th. So the trial is still ongoing.
I see.
And it still has a lot to be unraveled. But, 화이팅입니다, Ziyang.
Well, we will to give you the results of that trial, of course. And to wrap up our discussion, what's going on in the box office?
Yeah, so just a little bit of a box office digest in the Americas. So the first, the box office charts, we all know Joker, the second movie.
Yes.
Remember? Folie à deux. I think that's how it's read, made it to the top of the box office as of October 5th, but it comes at a very disappointing performance.
Yes.
Yeah, we all know that because it took, for the releasing profit, the first movie, when it came out in 2019, the movie earned 1,300억 won, so that's around 96 million. Dollars
For the
for the releasing profit. But
Right.
for Joker 2, the second movie,
opening weekend was not good.
the opening weekend was bad. It only came as half of that. So 630억 won. So that's
I see.
$47 million. And that's not even a trifle of covering their production cost. So yeah, that's one of the issues that we wanted to share on the box office charts.
All right. Well, we're going to call it a wrap for today's buzz for all the what are we calling it? Showbiz Buzz. Oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? Monday.
Yeah,
we'll check in with you next week, though. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to get to our final song for hour number 1. This is I'm Always By Your Side by Chun Bak.
When I walk down a road I don't know well, and I'm full of scare and doubt, I think of you. I think of you. And when life shuts me down and there's no way to win, Sometimes I just wanna cry. I think of you. I think of you. When you call my name, I can see the light guiding me home like the stars in the night. I've already known I'm lost without your arms around me. I'm always by your side, my love, and this love's entirely for you, with you, from you. I'm always by your side, my love. From now on, my everything's for you, with you, from you. When I'm lost in my thoughts, lying awake in the night, and I need to clear my head, I think of you. I think of you. 'Cause I worry too much, on my fears amplify. Sometimes I just wanna run. I think of you. I think of you. When you call my name, I can see the light guiding me home like the stars in the night.
Your Bridge to the World. befm 부산영어방송.
From now
The time is now 8 o'clock.
Good morning, Dynamic Busan.
Yeah, you're waking up. Time to shake it up. Tell the world good morning and find out what's going on.
Well, hi there, folks. There's everything from comedy to lively chat to music.
Broadcasting from a room about the size of your closet.
All calls are recorded. What show is this?
Live from Korea's dynamic city, this is Morning Wave in Busan. I'm sorry, who'd you say you were?
It is now 8 o'clock. This is News Highlights. Government to grant conditional leave for medical students. The Education Ministry yesterday said it will temporarily allow medical students to take a leave of absence on condition that they will return to school next year. The decision follows Seoul National University approving leave of absence requests submitted en masse in protest of the government's medical reform plans. The ministry said its temporary measure is aimed in part at normalizing education. It, however, warned that students who fail to return next year will face penalties, including possible expulsion. Yoon begins Southeast Asia trip in the Philippines. President Yoon and First Lady Kim Gun-hee arrived in the Philippines on Sunday local time for a state visit aimed at boosting economic and security ties with the Southeast Asian nation. On Monday, Yoon will meet with Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to discuss economic cooperation in the supply chain of critical minerals, energy, defense, and the oceans industry, his office said. Following the summit, Yoon will attend a bilateral business forum to promote Korean companies' bid in major infrastructure and transportation projects. Bilateral trade between the two countries reached $13.65 billion in 2022, with South Korea ranking as the Philippines' fifth largest exporter. National Assembly to begin first inspection of government offices. The 22nd National Assembly will begin its first parliamentary inspection of government offices today, with parliamentary standing committees conducting audits and inspections of 802 government agencies and offices for 26 days. The parliamentary inspection comes as President Yoon Suk-yeol vetoed a bill mandating a special counsel investigation into allegations against the First Lady last week. Intense partisan confrontations are expected over snowballing controversies surrounding the First Lady and the legal risks of the opposition Democratic Party chairman Lee Jae-myung. Kim Jong-un and Xi Jinping exchange congratulations on anniversary of diplomatic ties. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and Chinese President Xi Jinping have exchanged congratulatory message over the 75th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between the two nations. Kim stressed that it conforms with the fundamental interests of the two countries to invariably carry forward and develop the bilateral friendship with a long history and good traditions, said the North state media. Xi, according to Chinese state media, said that he highly values the development of China-North Korea relations, noting their recent meetings and correspondence. Iran cancels flights as Israel pounds Lebanon. Israel's Yoav Gallant says everything on the table for retaliation against Iran as flights across Iran have been canceled until Monday morning local time. Israel continues to strike Lebanon, causing massive explosions in southern Beirut as it prepares for possible attacks to coincide with the October 7th anniversary of the war. In the meantime, Gaza's health ministry said 26 people were killed by Israeli strikes on a school and a mosque serving as a shelter in central Gaza. And these are news highlights. for wa글와글.
It's waggle time.
That's right. Haley's back.
Hello again.
I wish we could laugh because this first story, not laughable.
No laughing matter.
Right. Because anytime we talk about drunk driving, we get like irked. Right? And the daughter of former President Moon Jae-in has been caught drunk driving.
Right. So this is not only a social issue, but it has already turned into a political one. But according to Yongsan police over the weekend, they have apprehended Moon Da-hae, the daughter of former President Moon Jae-in, for drunk driving in Itaewon. So the police received a call about a suspected drunk driver who was involved in an accident Saturday morning. So it turns out she was changing lanes in her vehicle. I believe she was going from right to left and hit a taxi in the left lane. And the driver sustained minor injuries, not serious, but her blood alcohol concentration level, or the BAC, at the time of the accident was 0.14%.
Oh.
Keep in mind, in Korea, 0.03 is license suspension, 0.08 license cancellation, so this was nearly double. So she, by the way, is also due for questioning at the prosecution involving the allegations of preferential hiring involving her ex-husband.
Indeed. And so the ruling party has issued heavy criticism of this.
Right. So one of the People Power Party's spokespeople issued a statement quoting former President Moon Jae-in's comments that drunk driving can be an act of murder, and called for strong punishment.
Yes.
He also, in the same statement, brought up the DP chair Lee Jae-myung's DUI history. In the meantime, as for the Democratic Party, they have not issued a separate statement, but when asked by reporters, its floor leader said that simply no one should drive drunk.
True.
Well, yes.
True. No one should drive drunk. All right, next. If you have ever tried to buy an SRT ticket, you know how high in demand they are, but apparently there are thousands of people who buy them in bulk only to refund them?
Right. So there are two bullet trains in Korea.
Yes.
The KTX, the completely public realm, SRT, which is semi-private. It goes for Busaners, it's not that big of a deal because they both depart from Busan Station.
Yes.
But their, not landing, but their arrival station in Seoul is vastly different because SRT goes to Gangnam.
Yes.
Highly, highly competitive for ticketing. But there have been 15,000 people across 4 years who bought a ton of tickets and refunded them.
Oh.
So SR, which is SRT's operator, they monitor these habitual or bulk refunds, and they actually define them as malicious refunds or malicious refunders.
Okay.
And these 15,000 people collectively bought and then refunded 896,000 tickets. Yeah.
That's a lot.
Why? How?
Why?
Right.
Why?
So, let's first look at the how.
Okay.
How does this happen? So, a person would buy a lot of tickets and then refund them the next month. And as opposed to, why? Why go through that trouble? Credit card points.
Oh.
Yeah.
It didn't even cross my...
Because you need to spend a certain amount to get credit card bonuses or privileges or points or whatever. So to fill that amount in spending, but without actually spending money, it seems that at least some of them are turning to these methods.
Oh, I always thought in my mind that if you refund something, don't you have to return the point? No?
For points, yes, but I think that's why it's for minimal spending on a credit card to be able to qualify for, say, amusement park, discounts or whatever.
I see.
Because if you already get the discounts and then you refund them, I think that's why they refund them the following month.
Okay,
right, which is baffling how people will use their smarts for something
That's
this.
so wickedly smart.
That is so terrible. So SR defines a person as what do you need to do to get this malicious refunder title? Well, if you've refunded over 1 million won worth of tickets in 1 month. So 100만 won in 1 month, or if you've refunded over 90% of all the tickets you've ever purchased.
Oh.
I know plans change. I've definitely had to refund and get new tickets, but definitely not 100만 원's worth of anything.
Or 90% of all your tickets, yes.
So the number of these malicious refunds have increased every year from 197,000 tickets back in 2021 to 271,000 tickets last year. And this year, up until August, there have been 208,000 such tickets. By the way, this is, massive losses, 45 billion won collectively, or roughly 1 billion won per month.
And I'm thinking, aren't there cancellation fees for buying these tickets, and wouldn't that prevent people from doing so?
Here's the tricky thing. The cancellation fees are not enough to deter them because if you cancel your tickets with 2 days before departure date, you do get a full refund. And this, of course, is for the vast majority of people who will only refund tickets if their travel plans actually change.
Yes.
But some people, there will always people who exploit the system. By the way, there were 43 people who have each refunded over 100 million won in tickets. So they bought at least 1억 won worth of tickets and refunded them.
Yes.
And 3 people whose respective ticket refunds amounts exceeded 500 million won. 5억 won. And I'm like, you had 5억 won to spend on train tickets? You got them refunded, but really?
But still.
But seriously, why? Lawmaker Bo Ki-wang, who released his figures, said that the parliament will work on revising relevant laws to prevent losses to the train riders.
Yes, and I'm thinking maybe they did ultimately get refunded and those seats became available, but I'm thinking if I'm trying to get reservations on that train.
Right.
How frustrating is that?
Exactly.
At the last minute, they
if they're getting him, if they're refunding him 2 days before, then right.
Oh. Okay, next up. A woman apparently hit and bit. Is this correct?
That's not a typo. That's a bit.
Hit and bit fellow bus riders right here in Busan.
That happened in Busan. So Busanjihacheon police, they've booked a woman in her 20s for assault against a 4-year-old boy.
Oh my gosh.
And his grandmother on a city bus. So this alleged assault happened on the city bus that was driving right through Gaya station last week.
Okay.
So the woman was sitting next to the grandmother who had her 4-year-old grandson on her lap.
Okay.
Apparently the boy's arm touched or grazed the woman's knee and she allegedly hit him in the face. Yeah. And then when the grandmother tried to stop her, she bit the grandmother's arm. The photos the family released, you can see that the grandmother's arm is severely bruised in 2 spots and her skin actually broke. You can see blood because where the woman's teeth sank in. Apparently another female passenger stepped in and broke the two apart and the family thanked her. But the woman argues that the boy was acting out consistently and she also has anger management problems. That's what she claims. The family said that so far they haven't even received as much as an apology from the woman, and the police are on top of assault charges considering violation of elder welfare law and child abuse given the age of the victims.
Okay, well...
Yeah.
I don't know if she has real mental issues. If she does, I hope she gets help.
Right.
But assuming that she doesn't, how can you bite people?
Right.
And there was a kid accidentally grazed you.
Right.
And you bite people?
Even let's say, complete benefit of the doubt, let's say the kid was acting out, move seats. Or at most tell them to please stop, or tell the grandmother to can you rein them in, but or move seats once again. And anyways,
anger management issues. Wow, rage. For our final stories. So we're talking about this streaming series, Culinary Class Wars. It's all the rage, and this has really shown a new light onto these top Michelin star rated restaurants, but apparently getting that coveted star, even that singular star, also has its drawbacks.
Right. So in the series, The Culinary Class Wars, you have the various chefs from Michelin star rated giants of the industry to lunch ladies. There is literally a lunch lady who they're all competing for, 300 million won?
Yes.
Of course, that star, given by, oddly enough, a tire company, is one of the most coveted honors in the culinary world. But there's also an industry saying that getting that star actually can lead to a restaurant's closure. So it's like the curse of the Michelin star.
The curse, oh no.
So one research actually has proven this. At least statistically, there's a link. So this is by Professor Daniel Sands, who's a business professor at the University College in London. And it was recently published in the journal Strategic Management. His team tracked 276 restaurants that have been praised in the New York Times review of restaurants between 2000 and 2014. And he noted that there's a significant closing rate for Michelin star rated restaurants. 40% of them have closed.
Oh, and the big question is why?
Right. I mean, I'm assuming it's not because the food isn't good.
Right.
Well, Professor Sands gives two reasons. Number one, the trap of high expectations.
Oh, because of the star.
Because of the star. Because let's say, for example, I'm going to New York on a trip, New York City on a trip. And if I'm going to go, I'm going to probably take great lengths. So make a reservation, save up, study the menu. So the economists analyzed that getting a Michelin star increased Google searches of that restaurant by 33%.
Oh.
But if people are searching for it, studying it, making reservations, dressing up, and coming from all over the place, their expectations are going to skyrocket. Then the restaurant has to invest more in terms of their service, ingredients, general atmosphere, and ambiance to meet these expectations, and that equals money. Also, higher costs from everybody else. So say you work for a restaurant that just got a star. Well, I want a raise. Right? Wouldn't you? Well, it's just so the supplier, the proprietor, chefs, wait staff, everyone starts to charge more, expect more. So that's the price of being famous, I guess.
Interesting. So, well, I guess that's the price of getting that star sometimes.
I suppose.
I guess. Well, thank you for all the woggly news. And we'll check in with you tomorrow, Haley.
See you tomorrow.
All right. Now back to you, the waivers. So for our traffic and weather. It is now time for your traffic and weather. There was an accident on Yeonsu-ro from Yeonje District Office to the Yangjong intersection right before you get to the intersection, so please be aware of that area. It's also backed up on Jeonpo-daero from Munhyun intersection to Munjeon intersection. It's looking slow on Beonyeong-ro from Daeyeon to Hwanghan Tunnel as well. There's also congestion on Jungwangdaero from Gyodae intersection to Naesung Underpass. As for the weather, it's currently 17 degrees Celsius and it's raining in some parts of Busan. The rain will continue through most of the day with a daytime high only going up to 20 degrees Celsius. Rain is forecast for much of the country with heavy fog in parts of Gangwon. This was traffic and weather. And this is a song request from A Waiver, Love by Keisha Cole.
I used to think that I wasn't fine enough, and I used to think that I wasn't wild enough, but I won't waste my time trying to figure out why you playing games, what's this all about, and I can't believe you hurting me. I met your girl, what a difference. What you see in her, you ain't seen in me, but I guess it was all just make believe. Oh, love, never knew what I was missing, but I knew once we start kissing, I found
right, waivers. I was looking at some of your responses for a text topic. So we are talking about how you choose a good restaurant, whether you look at those stars, whether they've been rated as such, or whether you go off of recommendations off the internet by friends, colleagues, social media. That's a kind of like a metric that people use these days, right? If you go on, Instagram or whatever social media, platform you use, get reviews off there. And then my whole thing is this: how reliable are those? I mean, are they being paid? Are they, the restaurateurs themselves? I just don't know. These days, how do you trust any of that is a question that I also have. So looking at some of your responses, for example, TJ Yo or Taejin waiver says, 맛집인데 허름하고 지저분한 곳은 절대 안 갑니다. 입맛이 사라져요. So he says, no matter how good the place is, if it's not hygienic, if it's unclean, I will not go, he says. I lose my appetite, is his opinion. Benny says this: I think we choose a good restaurant. It depends on how good their food is, if food is so good or not. So, for different people, Umberto, question of the day, depends on what I'm craving, previous experiences or reviews. So you do look at reviews. I think it's a common thing to look at reviews, like to kind of search like on the internet. I think I do a combination. I definitely do look at the internet to look at reviews. And but I look at a lot of different reviews, not just that one, because I feel like if I pick like the wrong review where it's like, written by someone or posted by someone who is affiliated with the restaurant, I feel like, oh, what if I choose that one? And then you just never know. Young says, I always choose one that has a lot of customers, a lot of people, which means that either the food is very cheap or very tasty. So at least there's one thing that is certain. The ingredients are fresh. Oh, that's a good point. If there's a lot of people going through the restaurant, that means the ingredients are fresh. So you can be sure of that. So Tori-님, who says, 업체로부터 제공받아 어쩌고 저쩌고 후기는 거릅니다. So she says that she kind of goes through the reviews and then she filters out things like that kind of seem like they're posting things like, oh, we get our ingredients from here and there according to like the company, like if it's sponsored, like, if it seems a little sponsor-ish, like then she seems to filter that out. Like it seems suspicious. And these days, kids these days, they say it seems sus, right? Kind of suspicious. All right, we're going to get to our special interview, though. I'll be back in just a moment. Recent stabbings, not just here in Korea. We, remember I talked about that terrible case in the States, the 13-year-old, older sister stabbing her younger sister. That's just one, case. Lots of cases have shocked and reignited debates about crime and punishment. And in the recent Suncheon student murder case, suspects' claim of not remembering the incident due to intoxication has raised concerns about potential sentence reductions under, in Korea, they call it 심신미약. Or the official translation is feeble-mindedness. In the United States, they tend to call it diminished capacity. Critics argue that such laws may lead to unjustly lighter sentences for violent criminals. And it seems that public outrage is growing and questions about the future of intoxication-based sentence reductions are gaining urgency. So let's break it down with Professor Suncheon, Professor of Law at Kyunghee University. Let's see what he has to say on this very hot issue. Hi, welcome back, Professor.
Good morning.
Yes, so can we talk about this? How does 심신미약 work under the Korean law?
Well, actually, the official term that we use in the translation is a mental disorder. In the Criminal Act, Article 10, the mental disorder could be permanent or deficient temporarily. And if you're talking about intoxication, it's a temporary deficiency in making discrimination or control one's will. So it'll fall in that category. The feeble-mindedness is a term that we're used to describe it in terms of getting the situation in an everyday term for lawyers.
Yes, yes. So and if you can explain it further then.
Right. It could be that the deficiency temporarily could be based on your mental illness, or it could be dementia. It could be some nervous breakdown situations. But of course, the intoxication has a similar effect of losing one's will or losing one's memory. So that's why it's controversial. You cannot really make a distinction in terms of whether his will or the capacity to make a rational decision is diminished. So it became a kind of a favorite defense for those people who committed a violent crime sometimes. Well, I don't remember, or I was intoxicated. And the controversy is whether it works as a defense in a court. So we have a situation where the judge has to make a decision as to whether the mitigation of sentence is warranted or not.
Yes, thanks for explaining it so thoroughly so we have a better understanding about the background of it. You know, there is a concern, though, in this particular case that really struck a nerve with many people across the country. And in the Suncheon student murder case, that Park Dae-sung might receive a lighter sentence because of this defense, of this 심신미약 due to intoxication, which would fall under, as you say, the temporary category of the mental disorder or deficiency, as you explained, Professor. So, is this a legal defense that might work that he will be able to use in this case?
Well, in the same provision, Article 10, number 3 is that if you're voluntarily induce that state, the defense does not work. So, and in the second, the subsection 2, the mitigation of sentence is a judicial discretion. Actually, they changed the law to say that if you're deficient in the capacity to make a rational decision, it is mitigated. That was the term before, but now it reads may be mitigated. So the judge can make a decision, and based on the subsection 3, if you're voluntarily induced to that state, then the defense does not work. So I think that in this case, the judge would say, well, it's a voluntary intoxication. If he or she makes that determination, then that defense would completely fail.
So just to clarify, this mitigation of sentence where the judge may be able to mitigate, is that a newer sentencing guideline, or has it always been on the books? Because I'm a little confused in that regard.
Well, newer as in, it was back in about 86.
So it's been there for a while.
It's been, well, no, actually, not 86, but it was 2018.
Okay.
Correct that. So it's been in the book for a number of years.
Okay. So, in terms of calls, people have been making calls to completely get rid of these regulations or laws that might mitigate or reduce sentences for crimes committed while voluntarily intoxicated. So what might be some of the main arguments for keeping these laws in place, and why might there be resistance to changing them as well?
Well, first of all, as I mentioned before, the law is there not only for the intoxication, but for other legitimate reasons. So changing that would be a little bit different. But specifically for the voluntary intoxication, those people who will keep it would say that, well, it is an impaired judgment anyway. So in the criminal law, we make a distinction. We make a point of making decisions on whether there is the mental state or intention is important in determining the severity of the crime. So consistency with the broader legal principles like that, people would say, well, we should keep it. I think it has to do with the social norm as well. It used to be that it is accepted that, well, if he's drunk or if she's drunk, then the mistakes that person make should have some sort of leniency. But I think that society is changing, that even if you're intoxicated, if it's voluntary, if it affects in the same way that the victim's pain and the kind of damage they sustain, I think the society is now changing to say that, well, it should make a difference.
So my next question is this. So why not separate, some might argue, why not separate, for example, the voluntary intoxication from the other forms of, whether it be temporary or permanent mental disorders or deficiencies then?
Well, I think that people would say that the law as it is can make a competent distinction as it is. Because if you go to number 3, subsection number 3, the judge can make it, well, this is a case where the voluntary intoxication falls under. So the judicial discretion would say that, if it's a voluntary intoxication, then the defense is not going to be admitted as a legitimate cause for reduction of sentence.
So if we go back to this Suncheon murder case at hand, so allegedly the suspect prepared a weapon before he became intoxicated. Is that what the police have reported? Is that based on fact?
Well, that would be a very important fact because it goes to the premeditation and intention of committing the crime, regardless of whether he is intoxicated or not.
Yes.
I think that it is a clear indication for the judge to say that this is a case where the intoxication defense should not apply because of that clear intention or premeditation to commit a crime.
And so for this particular case, the suspect, Park Tae-sung, his claim of not remembering the crime due to intoxication, well, many believe, or some believe, that he is, kind of using this defense, the 심신미약, to try to reduce his sentence, to mitigate his sentence. Do you think that this strategy, that it's a common one and that it's an effective one nowadays in Korean courts? What do you think?
Well, it is on the books, and it is frequently invoked by the defense attorneys.
Right.
Memory loss, feeble-mindedness, or the temporary mental disorder due to intoxication. But as I said, it's up to the judge to make a decision. So it's not a medical decision, but it is a judicial decision. And those defenses frequently fail, and more so these days, because the social norm has changed. And the judges will say that, the society will no longer be lenient on those situations and apply there's a standard that is more accepted in the society, which is that, those kind of excuses should not really exonerate one's intentional bail if it's voluntarily intoxicated.
So when you say that it's up to the judge's discretion, though, because even, some of our listeners on our board are saying it seems that in the Korean term, 방망이 처벌, meaning that they feel like some of the judges go very soft on these types of crimes. There's kind of this feeling by the general public that that's oftentimes what we read in the headlines. So why leave it up to the judges then? Shouldn't there be maybe more of at least a guideline in terms of the sentencing?
Well, the sentencing guideline or the kinds of precedents they make does make a difference. Say if there's a renegade judge who still thinks that the intoxication is okay, then probably that case will be appealed. And the appellate court will be consistent in applying the kind of the sentencing that reflects the social norm that is changing. So, yes, it is judge's discretion, and judge's discretion can make some the cases that are out of the norm, but within the judicial system, it frequently is corrected by the appellate courts, and that's the judicial system that we have.
Well, other countries, for example, just three, China, Germany, France, from what I understand, generally have laws that do not reduce sentences for crimes committed while intoxicated. So are there similar cases of intoxication-based sentence reductions in these countries? What would you say, Professor?
Well, China, Germany, France, they are just like our system, the continental law or civil law system. And what is interesting is that the Germany and France, they have a notion of accountability. You have accountability not to get intoxicated. So sometimes not only the sentence is not reduced, but they get a harsher sentence because they violated the personal responsibility or accountability aspect of it. So it is a different social norm that they have evolved into because they had the kind of the reduction in sentence before.
Yes.
And in the kind of Anglo American legal systems like England, America, and the Australia, New Zealand, they have a system where the voluntary intoxication completely fails as a defense. So
yes,
actually the discretion is still there, and they still allow the voluntary intoxication as a defense. But in terms of sentencing guidelines, their defense would be ineffective in many cases.
Well, we are going to wrap up our discussion today. So for your final words, Professor, do you think that there will be any changes on the horizon soon when it comes to this? Or do you think this is just, just the public just being a little outraged and then this is just going to be much of the same?
Well, a lot of changes in law comes about because of high-profile cases.
Right.
And this is making news, and this is one indication that maybe the National Assembly will toughen it up. And I think it's completely understandable. And I think, in a way, that the society is moving more towards the direction of tough on crimes these days. So it could make a change. But I think it depends on whether this is a high-profile case or enough. If we're still making the comments about this in weeks and months, probably it'll change. But if it doesn't die down very quickly, then probably we'll go back to the previous situations.
I see. Well, thank you so much for shedding light on this very important issue. Thanks for joining us today, Professor.
My pleasure. Thank you.
This was our special interview.
Get your local up-to-date news from Korea and abroad right here on Morning Wave in Busan with Catherine. Stay tuned.
It is time for Business Perspectives. We have Bobby in the house. Good morning.
Good morning, Catherine. How are you?
Doing morning Monday stretches with us.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, this.
I need to ask you this text
Yeah.
topic because you are a restaurateur.
Yes.
How do you choose which restaurant to go to? And not yours.
I only go to one. No, just joking.
Not your own. But do you our choices are, do you go to the Michelin star one, fine dining only, or do you get recommendations? Or even if it's like a hole in the wall and it doesn't look hygienic, but you know it's so good, like you've heard it's really, really good, you'll go?
Okay, I'll start with I'm not a foodie.
Oh, you're not?
So
you're,
so like
What?
a high-end foodie.
Oh,
so
okay,
like,
okay, so you're
I'm
not
not
like-
going after the Michelin star. I'm not
Okay,
after
okay.
that. Okay.
Okay, you're not
I
after that.
love trying to find the hole-in-the-wall restaurants.
Really?
Just in general.
In general?
I love being the one like, yo, man, I saw this place, you know, but
And
there
I
were some
checked it
people.
out?
There were people inside,
Uh-huh.
so I had to check it out. And it was legit. And
You
I'll
like,
tell my
you like
friend-
exploring.
Yeah, like just when I'm driving around, like looking for, maybe I see lines sometimes, you know, people outside.
that's
And, you
a
know,
sign.
yeah, that's a great sign. You know, I'm like, I got to check that place out.
Are you willing to wait?
I don't like waiting, but I did find that like in here in Busan, I found
Yeah.
the kimbap restaurant. It's like that place always has a line. Why? So I went in an off peak hour, and I'm like, oh, it's pretty good.
Tell me off air later where it is. Because I like recommendations. All
So
right.
and I get recommendations as well. So that's how I find restaurants.
Okay. Well, what are we talking about today?
We're going to get into the top tech trends of 2025.
Ooh.
So now that we're in
Yes.
Q4 officially,
Yes, we
you know,
are.
it's always a good time. Like companies start to shape plans for the next year. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, like this time last year, we started talking about some of the hot business trends going into 2024.
Sure.
If some of our waivers remember, some of those trends that we mentioned were that AI revolutionizing the customer experience.
Right.
You know, VR, AR making a bigger impact in business. Gen Z becoming more of the dominant consumer group.
Yes.
Right. So, you know, this week want to talk about top tech trends that have been identified by experts that are on the horizon for 2025.
Okay.
And Catherine, I will ask you at the end, which of these kind of caught your interest?
Oh, like last time. Okay. Here we go.
Keep your ears open.
Okay.
So, as we start to look at 2025, some of the
Yes.
technology is set to undergo significant transformations. Now, when we look back at technology trends, we saw a pattern of increasing connectivity, automation, and data-driven decision-making. And that was because of the technology such as cloud computing, the proliferation of mobile devices, and the introduction of AI, right? But now, with some of these upcoming trends, it's going to look to push these boundaries even further and introducing more advanced integrated technologies that are going to reshape industries and economies.
Sure.
Now, one of the first trends that we're looking at, tech trend, is, again, AI and machine learning.
Machine learning.
Right. Now, this has been a buzzword for the past couple of years, but for 2025, experts see AI evolving into what they call decision-making agents.
That's scary to hear. What does that mean?
And they've even coined a term called agentic AI.
What is that?
So now in the past, AI was primarily used for data analysis and automation.
Okay.
You know, really kind of summarized information and provided some possible outcomes, right? Now, looking ahead, the new way of AI involves AI systems that can make autonomous decisions, which will enhance efficiency and productivity, right? Now, the machines will actually take actions on behalf of individuals. They are an agent themselves, rather than just presenting the user with the options.
They're actually going to choose and take action?
Yes. Now, if the machine is given permission, it'll be able to choose the option that is optimal for the user as well.
They're making decisions on our behalf.
On our behalf, yeah. If given the permission.
Okay.
So agentic AI, that's a big topic. So
Ooh.
waivers,
okay.
go look that up.
Okay, that's option number one. Taking notes, okay.
Another one, technology trend, quantum computing. And we talked about a little bit about that, but it's supposed to take a big leap forward, with quantum computing. Now, in the past, when we looked at computing, we always looked at the power of computing speeds and whatnot by traditional means. But quantum computing promises to solve complex problems at unprecedented speeds. And it's going to revolutionize industries.
Yes.
Such as pharmaceutical, finance, and logistics. So like pharmaceuticals, quantum computing, it's forecasted to make drug discovery much faster.
Okay.
Right. And also in terms of just from a business perspective, like optimization models, such as for like logistics and supply chains, the real complex issues that we cannot solve today with today's computing power, we're looking at quantum computers that are going to be able to solve that. And just to put this in perspective, because it's hard to imagine it right now when we can't even see and feel it yet.
Sure.
But just in terms of what experts think the market is going to be in 2030, the market alone is supposed to get to $64 billion. And huge names right now, such as Google, Microsoft, IBM, they're putting a lot of money into R&D in terms of quantum computing.
Okay.
So another trend that.
Okay, so we have agentic AI, and then we have quantum computing so far.
5G.
5G.
Yes. Now, 5G has been around.
I was going to say, we're already there.
Yeah, we're already there.
Okay.
Now, it's already begun, right? But, I remember this, Catherine, before I came to Korea in 2019, 5G, because I was in the mobile industry.
Sure.
And 5G was a big buzzword. And the big question was, what can 5G do for us? Right? Because, from 3G to 4G, or LTE, if you remember,
yes.
it was just faster downloads.
Yes.
Videos were not as glitchy. And so we're like, okay, well, 5G is just that much faster.
Right.
But, a lot of it was around different use cases. And that's what's going to be more into play in 2025, where more of the full potential is going to be realized with faster, more reliable connectivity, right? It's going to have advancements in smart cities and autonomous vehicles. That's one of them.
Sure.
Now, compared to the past trends where it was just, there would be more connectivity improvements by offering significant lower latency and higher data transfer rates, right? And it's going to allow innovations in healthcare, manufacturing, and retail. Now, that one's really important because one of the use cases back in 2019 was remote surgery. So because of the latency effect, right? So a doctor in one country may be able to perform surgery on a patient in another country.
That's mind-boggling, right?
So that was one of the use cases back 5 years ago. And we're like, no way. But yeah, now with the rollout and more maturation of 5G.
We stand corrected.
Yes.
Tommy says, what we use now is not exactly 5G, because he works for a big tech company.
Love it, yes.
He says, what we use now is 5G sub 6, is coming from an expert in the field.
Tommy, I love
He's
it.
like at the forefront of that S company, right?
I would love to talk to Tommy to see what he thinks.
We want your input.
Yes, this is what we love. Yes.
We love having the experts out there.
Yeah. That's what it's all about.
Okay.
So that's 5G. So that's another tech trend.
Okay, that's a trend.
All right, another one. The next one is extended reality, or XR.
Extended reality.
Yeah. Now, it combines augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality. So it's more of an umbrella term.
I was going to say, because we know of the VR, the AR. So what the heck is extended reality?
Yes. So it's more of an umbrella term.
Okay.
So VR, fully immersive digital environment, right? AR, it's where digital lays over physical elements. So an example of this, like Lego, what they do is they provide, they have their boxes on the store shelves, but they also provide another display where if you scan that box in front of that display, guess what? It provides a 3D modeling of the actual fully configured set. Okay, mixed reality. It's digital elements can interact with physical elements where real and virtual subjects as well as objects interact real time. So another company Pepsi, in one of their marketing campaigns at a physical bus stop in London. For the waiting passengers, they surprised them with virtual events like alien invasions or tigers charging at them. Just increases brand awareness or customer engagement.
Okay.
It's all mixed together.
Okay.
So in the past, AR and VR really was used for gaming and entertainment.
Sure.
So 2025, what folks are saying is XR will be integrated into education, training, remote work, really providing more immersive experiences, enhancing learning and productivity.
Okay. So that's in the running.
Yes.
And I think we have
One
time
more?
for one more. Okay. Let's squeeze it in.
Biotech and genomics.
Okay.
Advances in biotechnology and genomics will lead to personalized medicine and improved agricultural practices.
Okay.
Now, past trends focus on genetic research and basic biotech applications, but in the future, we'll see more precise gene editing and synthetic biology.
Yes.
Which will revolutionize healthcare as well as food production. So, Catherine, I know we have a couple more, but we will end it there.
For today.
For today. What's something that caught your attention off the bat? Or none of them?
You know, I like the last one. I don't know why.
Yeah.
The last one spoke to me. Yeah. Maybe because like I'm such not a high tech kind of gal. It was like so high tech for me. I like the biotech and the genomics, advances in biotech and genomics leading to the whole improved agricultural practices because I feel that this one could really affect billions upon billions of people. It could.
It will. If it happens.
If it happens.
Yeah, it will. Yeah.
So I feel like the impact could be felt on more people, whereas, of course, the extended reality, that's all great.
Yeah.
But it's on such a limited number of people.
Yeah.
That's just my feeling, though. So, okay, we got to get real quick.
Right. So,
phrase of the week.
We're on to 2025. Now,
yes.
that kind of quote was made more famous by an NFL coach. The former New England Patriots coach Bill Belichick.
Yes.
And when he was always asked to discuss past games, he would always shut down reporters and say, "We're on to the next game. We're on to Cincinnati."
Okay.
So, basically, we're no longer thinking about the past, but focused on the future. Right? So, yes, we need to learn from our past, but we also need to be fully focused on what lies ahead.
Okay.
Right? To look ahead to make sure we take advantage of opportunities and or don't miss out on opportunities. So, taking a page for us personally, I want us all to take some time this week, if we can, to see how we're looking to close out the year of 2024. And how we could start afresh in 2025.
All right. So we're going to end it on that positive note.
We're on to 2025.
Yes, we're on to 2025. Okay, so how about this as our final song? This is 지구가 태양을 4번 by Nell. Have a good one, everybody. Be safe. Bye-bye.
천천히 솔직히 아주 금방까진 아니더라도 언젠간 잊혀질 것